it's still such a thing where people value and almost put the people on a pedestal that choose the one thing and stick in their lane for their whole careers.
Mm-hmm.
We look at people like Taylor Swift, who's been writing music since she was a child and has had so much success because she did not give up and she stuck with it. And that's definitely admirable, but most of us are not like that. We have to try on a few things before we hit that thing that will bring us that passion, that spark, that success, that drive, that motivation. And that even if we find it at one phase in our life, whether we're 18 or 22 or 30 or 40 or 50 or more, like, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be that thing that sticks on us forever either. And that's okay.
Fear stops us from achieving our true greatness. Are you a professional woman who is feeling stuck, unmotivated, or burned out? Are you worried about your wellness? Are you letting fear stop you from crushing your goals? If you answered yes to any or all of these, then this is the podcast for you. Dr. Charmaine Gregory, night shift emergency physician, burnout thriver, and wellness champion, along with everyday heroes just like you, will explore how to face fear in our lives and emerge victoriously.
Hey, thanks for checking out this episode. Be sure to click the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you get notified when the next video comes out. It only takes 2 seconds to make 2 clicks. So let's do it. Let's get back to the video. Hello, Fearless Freedom Tribe. This is Dr. G, and we are back for another exciting episode of the Fearless Freedom with Dr. G podcast. Today, we have none other than Sara Deacon, the adulting coach, with us, and she is going to tell us all about herself and all that she is up to. Take it away, Sara.
Thanks, Dr. G. I'm happy to be here. My name is Sara Deacon. I'm the adulting coach. And what that means is that I get to help teens and young adults figure out for themselves who they want to be when they grow up, so they can have the courage to suck at something new, confidently decide how they want to live their own lives, and adult successfully in this crazy, crazy world that we live in.
Awesome.
So that is what I get to do.
So you have to tell us, I mean, that is not a typical path. So you have to tell us, like, how did this all happen and the backstory? Spill all the tea.
Spill it all. Well, when I went to college, I had no idea what I wanted to do when I was an adult. I went to school for English, but I was also really into art and music and all sorts of things. And so I got an English degree because somebody told me, well, with a liberal arts degree, you can do anything. Well, nobody helped me figure out what anything would be and what I would be good at or what I would even like to do. So a lot of people asked me, oh, are you going to teach, or what are you going to do? And I spent a lot of years after college trying to figure that out. I was an English major, so I thought, well, maybe I'll go into publishing so I can read books for a living because I love to read. I got close. I worked at a bookstore after I graduated. I worked at Borders bookstore, and just sort of went up into the supervisory roles and just kind of did that until I figured out what I really wanted to do. But in this process of trying to figure it out, I realized that I was actually creating my life, and I was choosing a path that took me in a lot of different directions. So I worked retail, I waited tables, I did some office work, I was assistant to a photographer for a while. I wrote handwritten letters as a service. That was a really interesting job. I worked at more retail, all sorts of different things. And finally, when I was in my 30s, my husband's like, all right, you really need to figure it out. What are you gonna do? And that's when I started my business. I started my own business as a postpartum doula. So I took care of new families bringing home newborns. And then I was really good at that. And I enjoyed holding the space for parents to process their transition into parenthood from no baby to baby, whether it was their first baby or their fifth baby. There's always a transition. There's always an identity shift that's happening. So in 2019, I decided to expand into offering virtual services, AKA parent coaching. 2020 came along, and then my business sort of took a dive because parents did not want a stranger coming into their home to breathe on their newborn for some odd reason in 2020. So that took me to shifting over into coaching for the primary part of my business, because I can do that from anywhere. I can coach people all over the world from the comfort of my own home. And as I started really stepping into the coaching role, I got to speak with some friends, acquaintances, and practice and say, am I any good at this? I don't know. Like, is this something I can do? And they found it super helpful and assured me that I was on the right path, and the fact that I loved helping people see things more clearly, face their own fears, and find that courage to move to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
It was thrilling for me. It was really exciting. And as I got to do it more and more and start promoting myself out there, because I really didn't have a niche to begin with, I just was like, I will help you. I had people ask me, do you work with teenagers? Because it was parents, or it was educators, or it was counselors who were seeing this struggle, this anxiety problem in the younger generation, that they were achieving, or they were going forward, or they were looking successful, but there was something that wasn't quite connecting. There was something missing. There was some other support they needed that they didn't really have words for. So by the time the third or fourth person asked me if I worked with teenagers, I had to take a step back and go, is this something I really want to step into? And it turned out I did, and I love it. And I just get really, really excited when I talk to young people, because they are way more self-aware than I was at that age. They have passion, they have drive, they have determination, and that self-awareness, where they are going to do incredible things. And they're coming up in this age where nobody really knows what's going on. We're all kind of figuring it out together. So they're at a little bit of a disadvantage, and also kind of an advantage, because it's their native landscape. It's what they're really powerful in. And with some additional guidance that maybe is not coming from their parents, who they can't really hear at age 16, 17, 18, 19, then we can work together to really help them go beyond where they think they're capable of going.
That's fantastic. It's funny that you say there, like some of the things that you said, help them to face their fears, find their path. Like, that is something that those are skill sets that really all of us need to have.
Absolutely.
Because
I'm not limited to
even
teenagers.
But I'm just thinking, like, even when you have a designated path, like, because you said that, you were in college, you're exploring, that there were many things that you liked. There wasn't any one thing, but then you have other people who go to college with a purpose. Like, they go there, they already know they want to be an engineer. They know they want to be whatever, X, Y, or Z. But even within that, even within a designated path, they don't always recognize that there are ways to explore even within that, to really know
there's so many options.
What your area is. Right.
Yeah.
And so
I've
it's really, it's neat how yours kind of came to you, because people are like, oh, you should, what about this? Like, you should be doing
right.
This. So
I had to ask myself, what do I really want? And realize that that my life wasn't a result of things happening to me, but of the choices that I made. And that was sort of the big turning point for me, where it's like, well, if I don't like how my life is going, I can choose different choices and my life will look different. And also I can be grateful for the path that led me where I've ended up, because I wouldn't have had it necessarily any other way. Although there were definitely times where I was jealous of those people that knew they want to go into engineering or law or
Mm-hmm.
pre-med, or they wanted to teach, or they wanted to go into business. I never thought I would go into business for myself. Once I did, I'm like, oh, I'm going to make a really bad employee if I go back
That's
to
what
working for
happens.
somebody else. Yeah.
Once you work for yourself, you're like, yeah,
Yes. And
it's kind of nice.
I think it's still such a thing where people value and almost put the people on a pedestal that choose the one thing and stick in their lane for their whole careers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we look at people like Taylor Swift, who's been writing music since she was a child and has had so much success because she did not give up and she stuck with it. And that's definitely admirable, but most of us are not like that. We have to try on a few things before we hit that thing that will bring us that passion, that spark, that success, that drive, that motivation. And that even if we find it at one phase in our life, whether we're 18 or 22 or 30 or 40 or 50 or more, like, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be that thing that sticks on us forever either. And that's okay. But that's so celebrated that I think it can be really scary if you're the kind of person like me who was kind of all over the place and just had a lot of different passions. And that it can seem like that's a bad thing and that there's something wrong with you if you can't narrow it down.
Yeah, it's that is true. Like there is definitely a focus on those that have the path kind of laid out and are taking, going step 1, step 2, step 3, all the way down. But I think part of that though, like you have the people who kind of like Taylor, who they just have it in their heart to do that thing, like from the very beginning. But then you have the people who get on the path because they think that is going to be the thing that's going to secure their family's future. Okay. So then, and then you have another set of people who just did not get the exposure to the thing that they become passionate about until whenever, when they're in college or grad school or whatever. And so, the way that we get to our destination is just, so varied. And it is kind of messed up that those that hone early or have a plan for honing do get celebrated. That's kind of, but I think the reason why that is because
there's room to
society
celebrate all of it.
Right. But I think society just wants like cogs to put in the wheel. I don't know a better way of placing it, but like,
it depends on who you talk to. I'm not going to get political.
That's easier, right? They feel, I think they kind of feel like it's just easier that way, right? Like
the comfort zone is a real thing. The comfort zone is definitely a real thing. When you talk about fearless freedom, it takes discomfort to step into fearlessness and to free yourself. You have to get uncomfortable. Sometimes you have to break yourself down or get broken down or face things that you never thought you would want to look at. And then looking back, you become very grateful for those experiences that wrecked you. So I think there's, like I said, there's room to celebrate the ones who find their lane and stick with it for 30, 40, 50 years. I think Madonna has been in the music business for like 40 years and she's done it all.
Yes.
And, and changed her style up over time and is still doing it. So like that is admirable that, people can find that and stay with it for the duration, because for a lot of us, it takes some trial and error and some seasons of high focus and drive and years of passion and pursuit. And then suddenly the same thing doesn't do it anymore and we shift. And there's beauty in that too, because the experiences we get in one field can really inform and cause this richness in other areas that we may choose to pursue as well. So I really believe that everybody has that creativity and that opportunity to step into what they're great at, even when that changes over time or if it doesn't make sense or all go together, it goes together because it's part of who you are. And that's why it goes together. And there's a reason.
Yeah, no, definitely. Hey, it's Dr. G, and I just wanted to take a quick moment to thank you for listening to this episode. I'm so honored to have you here with me. Did you know that I can help you to get your own podcast started? With my podcasting launch course for professionals, I walk you through everything you need to know about starting a podcast. I'm with you every step of the way, from sign up to launching your show, with 5 episodes ready to go. There's a done for you version that's also available. If you would just rather just do recordings and leave the behind the scenes work up to us, then that one is definitely for you. But either way, we've got your back here at Fearless Freedom with Dr. G. Oh, if you already have a show and you need production services, we have monthly plans available for you. So check out the links in the episode show notes for more information. Let's get back to the show. We are some of our experiences, and you never. I always say that, the tests that we get in life, they're what we need in order to be able to help somebody at some point later, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you
Absolutely.
mentioned something that I thought was quite fascinating, and I was hoping you'd talk a little more about it. But like, you had a handwritten letter service. I mean, I just think about that in this day and age, because as being something quite unique, and I don't know what the base was, the customer base was, if it was like older people or if it was younger people, because I remember
it was really interesting
because what was
it
the
was
demographic
a company.
there? Was it older?
No, they were young, and I felt like they're too cool for me, because I went in and I'm 30 some years old, and like it's a group of 20 somethings who did this startup.
Okay.
And what it was this company that provided handwritten letters as part of a sales process. So they integrated this technology with Salesforce or other CRMs.
Oh, I see.
Where the sales team, who were too busy to sit down and write 100 handwritten letters to their, prospects,
right,
could send handwritten letters that looked like it was from them. But it was somebody that was outsourced. It was me sitting at a desk and writing these cards, but it was all online and done. This was 8 or 9 years ago or so. This is around the time my youngest son was born. So
okay.
So yeah, I worked for them. I was an employee of that company, and
that is very different from what I thought it was.
Yeah, they since switched. After a while, they shifted to more like sending swag, books or things like that, mugs, with cards and things like that. And then eventually the founders or the company dissolved, they moved on. So I'm not sure what they're doing now.
Oh, I see. Okay. Because in my mind, as I hear handwritten letters, I'm thinking, correspondences between people that know each other or trying to get to know each other, but doing it the old fashioned way, because I know when I was in junior high school, we had pen pals, and we would literally like write a letter to your pen pal in Finland or France or wherever. And then you'd wait for the letter to come back. And these are the things, right? And so this is what I thought that's what it was. Because I mean, we're in an age right now, it's instantaneous responses to correspondence. But that's a little bit different.
I still use handwritten letters. I write cards to my clients. I write cards to leads. I write cards to people that have had me as a guest to different events and things like that. So I do occasionally still send and mail handwritten letters when I think of it, when I think of the people, because it is kind of novel in this day and age to receive a handwritten card saying, hey, I was thinking about you and I hope that you're doing all right. And it's just you think about it, the time it takes somebody to sit down, write a letter, even if it's 2 or 3 sentences long, even if it's just a postcard, put a stamp on it, send it in the mailbox. There's effort there, and that shows that we care enough about that connection to go a little bit over and above. So I do think things like that are valid, and especially this day and age too, like everything is new again, and we're so used to that instantaneous that like when we get that pattern interrupt of like, oh, I got a handwritten card in the mail, it kind of pulls you out of that day to day with your blinders on and scrolling endlessly and instant likes and hearts, and reminds us of why we're really here is to make meaningful and purposeful connections with each other, because we're not here to do it alone. And that's why I am so passionate about the work that I do, because I do get to help people see things they might not otherwise have seen in their lives or in their own experiences or about themselves, if they wouldn't have had the courage to reach out and ask a question or have a conversation with me.
Absolutely.
It's really
Absolutely.
cool.
No, that is pretty awesome. That is awesome. Wow. And then, so now you've got, so you were doing this coaching, you weren't really sure about the niche that you were going to ultimately have. You wanted to help pretty much everybody. And then it has come down to now you're doing young adults, right?
Yeah. Age range of like sort of 16, 17 to junior, senior of high school, and then post high school, and sometimes into early 20s.
Okay, gotcha. So, okay, a demographic. So now so then how did you then, what was the next steps? Like your people were saying, hey, you should talk to my teenager, and then you start doing it. But like, how did you parlay from that to now to being the adult coach? Like, how did that all happen? Like, how did you get that set up?
It's an evolution. I think it kind of goes back onto trying on all those different things. So I had to try on different ways of marketing myself and try on different ways of showing up online, showing up in person, networking with people, building relationships, following up. And I am so much a people person. And I hired my own coaches, and I surrounded myself with people who saw things in me that I couldn't see, who could see the passion that I had to help other people. And especially as I stepped more into connecting with the younger people, they could see that this was something that was going to connect, because my energy and my heart were showing and shining in a way that I couldn't always see, because there were definitely, there's still days where I'm like, what am I doing? Because it can be tough to be your own business, because like I so believe that we are meant to be connected and have relationship and have people surrounding us and belonging as part of our experience, that when I feel like I'm all alone in my business, it is so hard. So I have intentionally surrounded myself with groups and people who I can reach out to when I'm having those moments where it doesn't seem to be working, or I don't seem to be connecting with the people that need me. And so they encourage me and lift me up and point me in a new direction and keep me going. So I've spoken to groups at schools, in other organizations. I've gotten connected to some fantastic organizations that work with young people, teachers, educators, counselors, all sorts of people. And I'm really stepping into doing more of that, speaking in front of groups and working with groups of young people, as well as the people who support young people, parents, educators, coaches, counselors, whoever those people are who have that heart to work with teenagers on purpose. I know a lot of grownups are a little skittish around the teenagers, because the teenagers put up a good show of being very off-putting sometimes.
Yeah, they can be, definitely. There's no doubt about that.
So
oh my gosh.
yeah.
Yes, no, that's great. And then so if somebody is looking to work with you, how would they get in contact with you?
I have a website that is my name, saradeacon.com, S-A-R-A, no H on my name, SARADEACON.com. And on my website, there's all sorts of fun stuff about me, some videos, some links on my socials. I'm at Sara Deacon Coach, all over the internet. And it's great to get on my list and just kind of feel out my energy, how I communicate, what I've got going on. You can follow me if you're ready to have a conversation. Like I said, I love people and I love just talking. You can schedule a free adult successfully strategy session with me through my website.
Okay. And would you say that most of the coaching is done, like you mentioned before, you said that, during the pandemic, you were coaching from home.
Mm-hmm.
Are you still doing the majority of your service from home?
Yes.
On the virtual?
Yeah, I have contacts and clients all over. I am based in Wisconsin. So if you're local to the Milwaukee area, you can find me in person. But if you're not, that's okay, because we can still hang out, which is great. One of the benefits of the pandemic is that a lot of us are more comfortable using the technology to connect over the internet.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's definitely true. Okay. All right. Awesome. This has been fantastic. And then, so we're at that point in the show where we do the tradition, which is fill in the blanks. Mm-hmm. Are you ready, Sara?
I think so.
Okay.
Let's find out.
Very cool. All right. The first one is, if I am fearless, I will.
If I am fearless, I will have no limits. How's that?
That's great. All right. The next one is, to me, fearless freedom means.
To me, fearless freedom means that when fear comes up, I'm grateful for it and I can choose my path through it, which frees me from being bound by fear and stopping me from doing what my heart, my nature, my spirit is really calling me toward.
Nice. And then last but not least, my battle cry is.
My battle cry is adulting is fun. I'm all about having fun. So I use that hashtag, adulting is fun, because I believe fun comes from that growth that happens when we face our fear and become fearless. So I loved the opportunity to connect with you on this show in this way. So thank you.
Yes, no, it was great chatting with you. Thank you for sharing with the Fearless Freedom Tribe. We loved it. And we look forward to seeing many great things happening with you and your coaching business. And hopefully lots and lots of teenagers will figure out their path as a consequence.
That's the goal, is to have a generation come up and know that they've got this and they can take charge and they can own their future like a boss.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Fearless Freedom with Dr. G. Again, I'm Dr. G. And if you like this episode, be sure to subscribe so that you can get notified of when the next episode is going to be. And also, I'll catch you next time. Have a great one. Be strong, be brave, and unleash your greatness.